politics.
We're gonna get into politics.
I hate doing this. But
Me too. I hate politics because why I hate them. I'm gonna go first. Is because there is always a side. You have to pick a side. That's kind of like tradition.
Yep.
And then when you hear somebody say, "Oh, I hate politics," like we're saying, you're going, "That's lame, dude. No, you don't. Like, I know you have a side. What's your side? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you thinking? Like, what are you voting for? Like, what kind of politics are you not into, but promote?" Okay, so the whole saying "I hate politics," it's true, but it also is more of a cop out.
Okay.
Right? Because
It
we
could
all have an idea of what politics should be or what kind of politics we're into, or because there's very rare people that are like, honestly, they talk about politics and they're like, they don't talk about politics, they actually hate politics and they don't know nothing about politics. I mean, that would be a nice life though.
Ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance, exactly. So politics, especially the current politics with Kamala running for president, how that happened, I still don't know. And the part of everybody goes along with it. I mean, how are we in a place in this country where we have two people that are so polarizing to each other, to the other side of the groups, that nobody likes from one side of the group? And like, if you're on this side of the group, you have to hate everything on this side of the group. You're on this side of the group, you have to hate everything on the other side of the group.
And I like to point out too, with that in mind, that this is why learning about history, which I am not a history major by
Sure.
Okay. But why is it so important? Because once upon a time, politics was so polarizing, we had a full-on civil war. Like, legit internal, the North and the South.
Sure. Okay.
And my point is that it's not the first time that we've been involved in something so polarizing. We've been here before, and I look around at the society that we live in today, and I realize how, whether it's TikTok or whatever, it's like people are so ignorant to the things that have come before that they're walking through this like this is the first time, and I just feel like we're setting ourselves up to repeat history.
No, you have an excellent point. Here's the thing about it, though. Back in the day, I think it was more of a live or die kind of mentality. Now it's kind of like a circus almost.
It is very showy, don't you think?
Absolutely. So what I mean by that is everybody's so busy with their lives, going to work and just trying to worry about the next month's bills, and what they're going to eat the next month or even tomorrow, right? That people don't have time to even look at politics. They turn on some stupid news channel and whatever they say, they're like, "Oh, I guess that must be true." When I would say politics, and then you have the modern news media, that's hand in hand. One is an arm of the other.
It is. And it's interesting because they've even made shows that illustrate the influence that the media has. Do you ever see the show The Wire?
No, but you told me about it.
Right. And the last season of that show, that's legitimately what the focus was on. They ran through multiple sides, from law enforcement to the people on the streets. And, there was always kind of this thing, but in the end, they tied it all together with how the newspaper and the media at the time influenced and moved things through, how they were able to sort of like move the marker, if you will.
Because the news media is not the voice of the people, right? It's the voice of somebody, but who's the voice? It's the voice of whoever's running for political office, right?
It's not, and I think it's a good thing that you say that, because it's not supposed to be like freedom of press is in our Constitution, and it's there for a reason. There was a purpose to being allowed to report what was going on without being criminalized for it.
Sure.
And now it just seems like it's a tool of the powerful.
It's like it's a contained in this little zone sphere. Because like me personally, I try to listen to like a one man show more than a whole organization like CNN. Like anything CNN says to me is false now. It's not because I'm on one side politically versus the other side. It's because they've had so many things wrong. And there's this video clip. It's a very famous video clip where they're like, "It's a threat to our democracy." One clip, and then another news channel across the country, another clip, and another clip, and it kind of expands, and they're all saying the same thing. It's like,
it's spooky. They're all reading from the same rhetoric.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why. That's a perfect example of how the media is. They all beat to the same drum.
Let's keep in mind too that there's two separate things that we're kind of commingling here. So there's media, right?
Okay.
And there's press. As far as, and I'm using it as like an old school term, the press.
That's a good point.
Right. So I was talking to a cousin of mine over the weekend, and he was talking about his Instagram account getting deleted.
Yep.
And he told me why. And I was like, okay, I understand that. And he's like, well, I think they're infringing on my freedom of speech. And I'm like, not really, because you can walk out your front door still.
Okay, so I'm going to comment on that. Yes and no. It's a privately owned company, not a privately owned company, but it's a owned company by somebody.
Right. It's a company.
Choose what is displayed on their platform. It's a platform that's owned by individuals.
It's just like a Christian newsletter.
Right, then you're gonna spout your stuff on my Christian newsletter, for example. I don't want you on there, right?
Right.
I could remove you. Same thing, Instagram.
But you still have your freedom of speech as far as you being able to walk outside
and say the same stuff
and speak your mind. But these platforms have become powerful, and I think we're also at a time too where we experienced this with radio. In the early days, the radio was like the first form of mass communication. And not just...
Well, it was newspaper and then radio.
No, what I mean by that is when you had a newspaper, either you had to print a newspaper for everybody or everybody had to take a turn with the book or newspaper.
Sure.
With the radio...
You mean more like instant?
Well, with the radio... they could send out a single broadcast and everybody could listen to it.
Okay.
So mass communication is differed by that. It's the lack of there's no need to have a direct connection between one person and the source.
Sure.
Like a book.
Yep.
Okay. So all these forms of mass communication have come through the years. We had, first we had radio, then we had TV and its subsidiary satellite, and then we had internet. And those things have changed the face of information. And there is just a lot of power that these companies are having, and they're not getting regulated by the same sort of powers that radio got regulated, not because people were saying things or not saying things. Radio got regulated originally because too many people were broadcasting on frequencies that were too close together. So people were jamming up other people.
Sure.
Right. And they said, okay, we got to figure this out so that everybody can have a slice of the pie. And I think that part is what we're missing. It's like, okay, where are all the other slices of the pie here? Because it really seems like the big ones, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, at least the big ones in mine, they all seem very skewed. They all seem very funneled.
Well, okay, in one direction.
In one direction.
Where they have the fact checkers.
I love the fact checkers.
Well, hold on. So Instagram, Facebook is one entity. And then we have the old dinosaur media like CNN, MSNBC, Fox, those giants. And then we have Twitter. Twitter is much different. Since Elon Musk bought it out, honestly, it's like the only open free speech mass media platform out there. It's not even a media. That's the thing. Twitter's not a media, right? It's
Right.
a media outlet. It's a social outlet.
Right.
And
It's
anybody
just-
could post any nonsense they want on there.
Right.
So have it good or bad.
And again, this is heavily against the idea. There used to be this kind of idea that if it was on a news source, a press, or later, TV and the news, there was supposed to be some sort of legitimacy to what you were seeing.
Well, so because you have a good point, but now the legitimacy is, it's not being shown. It's the dinosaur news media outlets are telling you how you should feel about a certain event or a certain thing.
And I feel that way too, but when you hear about it, it sure doesn't seem like that's their like, how do I say this? I agree with what you're saying because that's how I feel about it too. But when you hear them tell their side of the story, it's like, no, we're just reporting. We're not making an angle out of it. We're just.
Well, okay, fine. Here's a perfect example. I don't remember what outlet this was, MSNBC or CNN. It's all the same to me. They had this whole, it was like these picture frames, and it was Trump. They were basically, how can I say it, trying to prove their audience that Trump is some sort of racist. Mm-hmm. So they had these pictures of Trump in certain events and these words next to him, and they would, the presenter would take turns. He would say, well, this is Trump in this event, and this is what he did, and this is why he's a racist. Moved on to the next picture. And this is Trump, and this is him in this event, and this is why he's a racist. So when you have a news outlet doing that kind of stuff, it's not really reporting anymore. It's more of, how can we make somebody look really, really bad because we don't like him and we're against him? So what kind of politics is that? Remember, because we're talking about news media is a branch, like an arm of politics.
Yeah.
Specifically the left, unfortunately. So that's what it is.
It feels that way.
It feels that way. But here's the thing. People on the left feel it the same way. They feel like the news is out to get them somehow. Like, though when the whole Trump assassination happened, lots of people are thinking it was the media making it look like it was a fake attempted. Basically, it was a faked attempt.
Staged, yeah.
Yeah, staged. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for.
Good staging. Somebody actually died for that.
Right.
That's yeah. I mean, I think
it's mind-blowing that people are coming up and thinking, hey, this was staged on one side, and the other side is it's all cover-up.
So on the topic of the circus, though, I don't know if you've been watching, there's a really high-profile, I'm not going to say the name, really high-profile case in Georgia right now.
Okay.
Everybody who knows, and if you don't know, you can Google it. If you watch it, it is insane how many people, there's the bare recording of what's going on in the courtroom. So if you actually wanted to watch what was going on, and it is circus enough, literally, if you just watch it. But then you have all these people that are like duetting it. So they've recorded the court session.
Oh, and they're talking about it,
and they're
commenting about it.
Exactly.
Sure.
And it is like, I understand that they are not telling you, but I swear as you go through it, the commentaries, because these people, even though they're like amateur or semi-professionals, when you hear somebody talking and you can't counterpoint anything, it's just them talking because they're producing it and putting it out, it really skews your point of view. And I'm not saying that they're wrong either, or that they're skewing it in a way that's necessarily incorrect. But it is extremely showy. It reminds me of a couple of movies, which is like The Hunger Games, where it's like all this stuff is just on display and it's publicized, and it's almost like a glamorized thing. They're making it into something that it's not. And then there's other shows from the past in my day, like Running Man. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but they put like convicts on TV in like a game show setting. And I only bring all this up because I feel the movement that way. Like we're
The political movement.
it's a political movement to making everything like what a circus is. You go to a circus.
Entertainment. So it's basically, it's not like, how do we rule this country?
Yes.
Is this entertaining?
Yes. How do we make what's going on into some form of entertainment?
Okay. I mean, I don't know if that's politics. I guess it could be because, again, the whole Trump charges. So now he's a felon. He's a 50+ time felon.
54 felonies, and he still gets to run for president.
Exactly. So, I mean, just like, let's dissect that thing, for example. Like, there was no issues until he ran for president. The whole media, especially the left side media, which is pretty much the entire media, Hollywood, all that, loved him. He was a big star in the whole media circus. And now he's hated by every outlet. He's the worst guy, and basically it's what they're telling you to feel. They want you to hate the guy. Now he's the worst guy that's ever been. But before that, before he ran for president on the wrong side from whatever, the media is, he was fine. There was no, I mean, there's plenty of videos, and that's funny. Like, nobody plays it. Like, nobody plays those videos where the media just loves him, and he's just like, hey, if you ever going to run for president? They keep asking that, and then no issues.
And kind of getting back to the political side and Trump and Harris and the runoff right now, this is something very concerning for me as I'm looking at the climate. As I literally just look around outside, not on my phone, not on the TV. When I look around, I see this divergence happening, and I'm really scared for either one of these candidates getting in. This is not supporting or downing any of them at this point, because I feel like if we get Harris in office, the country is going to implode from the outside in, meaning we're going to get taxed. We're going to, get bombarded with, maybe illegal immigrants. But you know what I'm trying to say? It's like if Harris gets in, I feel this like self-destruction coming from the outside. Where if Trump gets in, I feel like it's going to rot away the core of society, and it's going to implode from the inside out.
Okay. Fine. I understand what you mean by Harris with the legal immigration, with the taxes, with supporting companies and all these price gouging that's happening right now, the inflation, the dollar being printed like nobody's business, and that's what equals inflation, right? The interest rates, all that. So that's kind of what's been happening the last 3+ years, right? Kind of Biden-Harris rule. But Trump, I'm not too familiar. What is the scary part of Trump running for office?
So
becoming president?
As we've been discussing, I see a setup happening. The polarizing of our nation between the two sides is not just accidental. The polarizing of everything.
Yeah, that's part of the program. That's part of the big media program, is to polarize everybody.
Right. And so it's setting it up so that way if Trump or somebody like Trump does get into office, that polarization is going to come to forefront. So we have things like Roe v. Wade, right? We have the LGBTQ alphabet people issue and transgenderism and all these things that are being set up to be a high level of conflict inside the nation. Right?
Okay, sure.
I'm seeing it divide. I have friends that have divided from me from just wearing a mask during COVID. right? That
And again, that's part of politics. The whole mask thing. You wear a mask or you don't. You either eat meat or you eat bugs and vegetables.
yeah. So it's what I'm trying to say though. I feel like the way they're setting the chessboard up is if Harris wins the race, right? Again, this isn't, I'm at this point, I'm not even talking about their policies. What I'm saying is the way I see the chessboard set up, if Harris wins the race, they're going to take our king from the outside, right?
I see what you're saying.
And if Trump wins the race, they're going to take our king from the inside. The moves have been set, like checkmate in 7.
Okay. It's like the train is still going in the same direction.
Right. Whether it doesn't matter who's going to win here. The way I'm looking at the chessboard being set up is we're either going to collapse from the outside if Harris gets in, or we're going to collapse from the inside if Trump gets in.
I don't know about that. I don't think because like Harris is again. She was the lowest voted Democrat nominee when the 2020 elections were happening. She was the lowest nominee, and now she is running for president. I think that's a circus. First of all, how's that even a thing?
Oh, I know.
And everybody eats it up with a big spoon of, I don't know, circus. Like big spoon of circus.
Just have it with your tricks.
And everybody's on board. Like nobody liked her. There was all these other Democrat politicians that were running, and everybody loved everybody. But Harris was again last. She was the last voted person for the Democrat Party in 2020, and now she's everybody's favorite. What kind of brainwashing is this system?
Well, think about when Biden was getting in. Biden was like a 3rd, 4th place contender. And then all of a sudden, all of his opponents just like step down.
Right.
Like,
there's something happening in the background.
I know I'm in the lead and by miles, but Biden's a good dude and
he's all right.
Yeah. So when I didn't, but that's a different story. Anyways, but the nation got behind Biden enough to vote him in.
Well, I mean, and then we're talking about the whole mail-in ballots, fraud, a stolen election. Let's not get into that because that's a whole nother bag of worms.
It is, and depending on who you listen to, it's very convincing from both sides. I've heard the people that, I agree. We shouldn't get into that.
Because then we could get into, hey, what's up with all these videos where all these vans stop buying all these mail-in ballots, start rolling out, right? Stuff like that. And you see videos over and over again. And then you see these places closing their windows down. And then the other side's like, hey, no, because those vans are backed up somewhere, or the windows were closed because people were interfering with accounting.
And the fact that, the overall system is still, far and away the most secure system that's out there. So
now with the electronic voting, no, I think that is the biggest scam. Electronic voting is so easily
electronic voting. I haven't seen that one yet. I've got mail-in ballot, and I voted in person before. But you're talking about being able to vote on your phone?
No, I'm talking about the machine that you voted on counts your vote.
Oh, okay. So the votes
button that you press on there counted your vote.
Oh yeah, mine were mail-in, so I actually wrote mine. All of my answers that were on my ballot, if they counted my ballot.
If they counted your ballot. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a whole nother thing about voting. And
it's interesting though, because we talk to a lot of people. I'm sure you run into this a lot. People are like, I'll tell them this is what's in this bottle or something like that. They're like, well, how do you know? And it's like, well, that's a good point. There's some regulations about what, but
well, that's a good point, because unless I put it in a microscope and start examining each compound,
I have to know what I'm looking for.
Exactly. Not only do I have to have the equipment to examine it, I have to have the knowledge to know what I'm looking for. And if I don't, I have to have access to learn about that.
But so many people don't you check some boxes on a piece of paper, you slip it in the mail, and you send it to somewhere. I mean, my local office is right up the street, but I mail it, and then it goes into somewhere, and people take it apart, and I'm assuming that everybody from my doorstep, meaning the mailman on,
Is honest.
is honest. And there's no, like, how do you know? Did you count your own vote in the tally rack? Meaning, did I go up and actually move my marker? There's my vote. No, but it's just funny how people are so quick to question, you're like, how do you know that's organic? Like, how do you know? How do you know they didn't just put
You don't.
in? I know, right?
At the end of the day, you don't.
Right.
That is the truth. I mean, there's, the absolute truth. The absolute truth is you don't. You hope it is. You have kind of trust and faith in the system. And that's the same thing with politics. Like, we don't know what, Trump's ultimate goal is. The people that are for him, they think he's the guy to save America. And the people that are, for Harris are just brainwashed dummies.
What's crazy is, and we're talking about politics, so I have thrown the word crazy around a lot today.
Well, yeah, when you eat so many vegetables, it makes you crazy.
It does. What's crazy is the level of educated, smart people that I respect highly. I would say this, my tight circle of people that have high levels of education. They're almost exclusively for Harris.
Did you ask him why? Have you ever got into that conversation or you avoided it?
So I have. I actually have.
Okay.
And a scary thing has started to emerge, and I don't like this feeling, but I'll share it with you and everybody who, all 6 people that tune in to watch it. In a way, it's a little private, but I have come to a certain position in my political outlook where I'm questioning my knowledge base and whether I'm even qualified to make a choice. And it's a little bit spooky. I've talked to my wife about this, just one of the few people that...
It's an interesting idea. I see what you're saying. Or concept.
Because when I've talked to the smart people and the things that they start talking to me about, they really are over me. Like, I mean, I understand their words and I roughly know, they start talking about foreign policy and they start, all these things. But I don't have a good understanding of it. I don't have an understanding of how all these things work.
Sure.
And, and I've noticed as I've gotten older, like the older I get and the more I actually do know, the more I realize I really don't know. And there's an old saying about that's your sign of intelligence is, starting to know how little you really do know.
Well, I know exactly where you're coming from because I always try to have like this second wave of thought. Do I know what I'm talking about? And if I'm listening to somebody that's quite intelligent, let's say they're in the opposite side of politics to me, I want to hear them out. I'm trying to understand because there's a good chance I'm missing some bit of information to make my decision on why I think what I think about a certain political person.
And then I always, it's interesting because I've heard a lot of things. I've, had a conversation almost exactly like that. And I say, well, and then I go to the gas station and I pay $5, $6, $7 a gallon for gas. And I go to the grocery store and it's like $300-$400 and it's a household of 2, right?
Yep.
And it's an interesting comeback specifically to the inflation. And they're like, but inflation is not the president's fault. And I get it, and they explain it, and it makes sense what they're saying. But on the other hand, maybe part of the problem that we've come to with our political positions is not holding these people accountable
100%. I totally agree.
Because if the president is not the one man who is supposed to sort of have the best interest of the people, whether they voted for you or not, in mind, then who else are we supposed to talk to? Because it seems like every level you go down, it's not him.
Their fault.
Right.
Exactly. We need more funding because of this or that or
Right.
some nonsense. Dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. That drives me crazy. I love you brought that up because it's not the president, or let's say it's not the president, like Sleepy Joe. Let's not talk about it because he doesn't know where he's at most of the time. Let's say his administration. All the people that are put into all these positions, is it their fault? Who do we hang at the end of the day for screwing up the country the way it is? And the people that think that this country is not screwed up right now, nobody could go rent. Like if you're 20 something, you can't go rent anywhere. You have to live with a roommate or multiple roommates with parents or something. You cannot go live out your own because rent has doubled in the last 4 years. It's mind-blowing. Food has more than doubled in the last 4 years. Who do we blame? Where does it stop? Is it my fault? Is it your fault that you go to work every day and you slave away every day? Whose fault is it? Where does it stop?
No, and it always seems like it's a combination of supply and demand, and
it's the corporations. Okay, so there's these politicians that got paid off to move these corporations into positions that they are now. So now we have 2 or 3 big corporations that own everything, the entire food supply. And it's the corporation's fault, or is it the politician's fault that let them get into this position?
A good point, which is actually my biggest argument. Or is it just our fault for building the very shackles that enslave us?
Ooh. That is beautiful.
I watch it all day long. Like we are all just, for a little paycheck or a little slice of the pie.
We'll just shut up and go to work.
And we just build the very machine that is...
And we're building the machine that is enslaving us.
Yes.
Absolutely correct. At the end of the day, I think that is it. You're right.
Because it's like the old grasshoppers and ants analogy. If the ants just said, screw this, there's not enough grasshoppers.
Absolutely not. But the ants are all too scared for their little crumb they have.
And at the end, the hardest part is that all the ants currently don't have a good way to make the decision all at once.
You would think that would be the opposite. We have all this communication.
But that goes back. So we have all this communication. I can talk to you, right?
Sure.
But
the mass communication.
The mass communication where we could all say, you know what? Everybody, you want to get on board with this idea? And it's hard. It's easy for me to trust you. But it'd be really hard to trust if
1,000 more.
Or a million more or 200 million more.
Yep.
It's like, so I'm going to walk out and I'm going to be the only one swinging in the breeze, and 199.99 million people are going to be like, there's your rebel.
I have to go to work tomorrow. I can't do it. Yeah. No, but that's kind of how it is right now. Everybody's too scared. Everybody talks about it, but nobody does anything. And then what is a guy like you and me supposed to really do at the end of the day?
Alone, I don't see. This is the thing. Alone, I don't think that you and I can do much.
Organize?
I think.
How can you organize in your position?
No, you can't. 1, you can't organize. 2, my dollar by itself doesn't matter. I think if we want to talk about it like as a global solution, nothing, and I will give credit to the gay community when they first started out, they spoke with their dollars and it mattered. Like if they didn't like a restaurant, they would all not go to that restaurant.
All 3 of them?
No. But I'm just saying it at a certain point, they didn't rally up. There was no protesting. There was no...
Well, if we got to get into that, I think it's a big old agenda about that whole thing, if you want to get into that.
No, I don't. I really don't, because we're actually going to have to wrap this video up.
Yeah, I understand. I don't want to get into that, but I think there's a bigger agenda than it's just a few gay dudes getting together and not wanting to go to a restaurant.
We have to speak with our dollars. Meaning, if we don't want...
Well, not pay taxes?
No, not those dollars. The dollars that direct... So like if everybody says no more to like canola oil, because we talk about food a lot, right?
Sure.
Trust me, if we all got on board and said, I'm not buying anything with canola oil in it.
Oh, yeah. No, I 100% agree. Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to say is we need to speak with our dollars. I think that is the ultimate.
How do you do that when it comes to politics? Because you have the current nominees, the political system that's tied in. We have Trump, we have Kamala.
So politics is
how do you vote with the dollar?
No, politics is uniquely different.
Okay.
Politics is like one of the outliers in all this because we're supposed to have this thing called voting, right? Like the idea is this is our one chance to influence change without it having to be our dollar.
Yeah, but you have dumb and you have dumber. Who are you going to vote for? The dumb guy?
Okay.
Because he wears a better suit, or for the dumber because he has better hair? or are you going to vote for the dumb?
So what's your suggestion? Because I honestly, besides
pitchforks and fire.
So
revolution.
Okay.
Hang the politicians. No, I'm kidding, of course.
Unless you're going to do it.
Obviously, I'm kidding. No, I mean, but I'm not going to bring up a solution because I want to talk about what's actually going on. Because without understanding the details about it, if I give you a solution, you'll go, that doesn't make sense. How is that going to happen? And why should we do that? Because right now, the only reason people are going to vote for Kamala is because they don't like Trump. And they'll justify the reasoning why they like Kamala when they have nothing to do with her. Or they want nothing to do with her, I should say. Because honestly, there's going to be like 0.2% of people that actually vote for her because they like her. Everybody else, the other 100% or 99.8% of people that vote for her are going to vote for her because it's not Trump.
I know that.
Right? And that shouldn't happen. Because right now, what this is called a democratic elect. But democracy or democratic elects leads to dictatorship. Democracy leads to dictatorship.
There is the ability to choose different leaders. There is a place on every ballot.
Yeah, but everybody's stuck in the two political system with the whole media brainwashing everybody with a drum. And that
gets back to what I was saying is there, like legitimately, like we had somebody good to vote for, right? Who just got ousted. I'm going to say Bernie Sanders. I like Bernie.
Bernie Sanders, the communist?
I like Bernie. Leave me alone.
The guy that went to the Soviet Union and said, this is the best place ever.
I love Bernie.
Then it falls down. The guy that says, there should be no millionaires. He becomes a millionaire. Then he says, there should be no billionaires. That guy?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, okay.
So,
the mittens guy.
If we all just go to the polls and, again, this is what I was getting at before, as far as we are not able to all decide at once together.
Yes.
And we also fear the other thing, which is, so we all do that, and because our numbers kind of get divided up, it's not strong enough to actually make the change. Like a lot of people are going to vote for Kamala Harris and not Bernie, right? Because there's not a good cohesive agreement between all the people to say we're going to vote for Bernie and not Kamala Harris and get him in. It's that same problem that they just can't make the decision all at once. So I don't have a good solution. I'm scared for what's going on. I look around. I don't like it.
I'm right there with you. I don't have the ultimate solution. I mean, I have ideas here and there. I'm also quite not scared, but really concerned.
Yes.
That's probably the better term. Concerned of what's happening, where this country is heading, because nobody could afford anything anymore. And it at this rate where we're going, it's only going to get worse and worse. And then it's going to be one of those apocalypses where everybody's just trying to survive. Everything's burning down.
I don't see how it can continue to keep going, because at some point it's going to all fall apart.
Absolutely.
At some point nobody can actually legitimately afford it, no matter how many credit cards you have.
Right.
And it literally just doesn't work. And then it falls the other way. The pendulum swings all the way back to the other side, and it's like, house prices will come down to like $30,000 because.
Well, I mean, I don't think that's ever going to happen. Not with the dollar, because the dollar is, I mean, that's for another conversation. The dollar, the inflation is built in. That's how the system's built. That's a whole different. That's like a money conversation. How the dollar is a fraudulent. Yeah, exactly. How the dollar is a fraudulent state of wealth. Not wealth, but what do you call a state of not money, currency. Because what is a dollar? It's like a placeholder for value. Oh, value. There we go.
Yeah.
Because I mean, look at it this way. Because of politics, the dollar that was worth $20, you work an hour, let's say in 1980s, to earn that $20. And then 2020 comes around, that $20 is not worth that 1 hour that you worked. Now it's worth, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. So it's not, or the other way around.
No, I get your analogy. The $20 of 1980 went a lot farther.
No, it's not even that. That's not what I'm saying. Because they're stealing from society. This dollar, the way it's implemented, is stealing every day.
It's built-in decay.
Yes, exactly. So if you don't spend that $20, that $20, the value keeps shrinking over the years.
But
you cannot save money.
Something is changing too in the face of all of this. One thing that's changing is one reason why inflation was always able to grow the way it did was because we always had more and more people. We are not doing that right now. We are in a kind of holding pattern.
Which should be okay. We should be fine.
Oh, we should be.
If the system is built correctly, it should be fine. But the system is a scam system. The political system is a scam system. The financial system is a scam system. So yeah, I'm very concerned.
Any final thoughts?
Other than being real concerned about where this country's heading, the politics about it, no, that's it. I think with that, yeah, thank you for tuning in. If you were still here, I appreciate it.
Please, if anybody's got a good comment to throw down there,
please throw it in there. We're quite curious.
We're not closed-minded people by any stretch of the
imagination. I would love to learn, figure out where I'm wrong, figure out where I can improve. Yeah, bring it on.
All right.
With that, thank you.